vertebrae: a cervical vertebra, a thoracic vertebra, and a lumbar vertebra. If you look at these vertebrae, they have different features that can allow you to distinguish whether a vertebra is from the cervical, thoracic, or lumbar region. If we look at the cervical vertebrae, it is the smallest, and it has transverse foramina in its transverse process. If you look at the thoracic vertebrae, first, it kind of looks like a giraffe. If you look, here's the giraffe's nose, giraffe's ears, giraffe's horns. Okay? And it has a long spinous process that angles downward. With the lumbar vertebrae, again, we can compare this one to an animal. It kind of looks like a moose. Nose, horns, ear. If we turn it sideways, you can definitely see nose, horns, ear. As we look at the parts of the vertebra, one part of the vertebra is the body, which is this large part on each vertebra. The vertebral foramen is where the spinal cord would go. The spinous process is this long projection. On the cervical vertebrae, you'll have a bifid spinal process. And in this case, bifid means branched. So you have these two little branches on the cervical vertebrae spinal process. The transverse process on each vertebrae points out towards the side. Connecting the body of the vertebra with the transverse process is an area of the bone called the pedicle. Here is the pedicle. Okay. And I'll show you this on each vertebra. And it's a little harder to see on the cervical vertebra because you've got a very short pedicle and you've got a wide transverse process because of those transverse foramina. The lamina of the vertebrae connects the transverse process to the spinous process. So it's this whole area here. And I'll show you this on each vertebra. This area here, both inside and outside. Okay. And on our thoracic, our lumbar vertebra, we can see this here. Another feature of the vertebrae are the articular processes and facets. We have a superior articular process, which is the bony projection, and the facet is the flat surface. So our superior articular process and the facet is this flat surface. Superior articular process and this flat surface is the facet. Now for the inferior articular process and facet, we have to look at the inferior side of the vertebrae. And here we have our inferior articular process, and the facet's the flat part. Here we have our inferior articular process and the facet. And here we have our inferior articular process and the facet.